So we'll go ahead and get started. If anyone joins, I will pause and welcome them in, but we have a lot to cover, and so we'll go ahead and kick off. So tonight's class is going to be on the extended fasting. We already did the intro to fasting last week, and if you haven't been able to watch that on our YouTube channel, definitely recommend you go back and kind of go through that content. We are going to cover a little bit of it here, but I would like to just take a few moments to deepen further into the extended and don't want to take a lot of time to recap last week. So with that, I want to open with the disclaimer and reminder that I am offering this class as someone who's passionate about fasting. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, and I'm not a nutritionist. I started fasting myself in 2017 when I wanted to heal a bunch of autoimmune diseases that I was struggling with at that time. And I cover that in detail in the first class. Since 2017, I have personally deepened my own discovery and my own understanding of fasting. And I've done this by continuing to change things and shift things around and extend the windows that I've really been able to fast in. So far, my longest fast has been 33 days. That was a black coffee and water fast, and I did that last June, if I recall correctly. Since then, I've continued to I do some form of fasting every single day, whether it's just one meal a day in an 18/6 window, or if I'm, just blending in some form of fasting. This week, I'm actually trying something I've never tried, which is 72-hour fasting with one meal and then going right back into a 72-hour fast. And again, I do this because I really always want my body to be challenging itself. And I learned something from every single fast, not just how to manage the body, but the mind. And I think that's equally as important, because what I find personally in the fasting is I get clearer and I'm able to tackle life when I'm not sluggish from food. And I think we discussed in the first class how this becomes quite a successful way to treat even people who have various food addictions or food problems. Some people really find that by being in a fasted state, they're able to feel some sense of control over what they're doing in a healthy way versus starving themselves. And as I've always said, the feast is important as the fast. So with that, let's recap just gently on what we covered in the intro to fasting. So the first thing we talked about in depth was finding your why. And I find this to be true no matter where you are in your fasting development. That always keeps me going. Why am I fasting? What am I wanting to accomplish? For me personally, it's about healing. It's always about some form of healing, whether it's spiritual, physical, mental, healing the continued parts of my body, or the autophagy that helps with the skin tightening from my weight loss, anything that might be coming up health-wise. So there's various reasons I tend to do fasting. My why can be a wide range. It's not always the same with every fast. So I tell people, as long as this journey goes on, your why might continue to evolve, and that's awesome. But it's also your reason for reminding yourself during the ebbs and the flows of why you're even doing the fast. Perhaps write it on a Post-it note and stick it on the refrigerator, on your laptop, and in your car. That will keep you motivated in those moments of weakness where maybe your tummy's gurgling and it's telling you it wants to eat, when in reality it's just thirsty. or it's bored, or it wants to numb something. So finding your why, again, that's an important piece regardless of where you are in your fasting journey. Deciding your feast. How you're going to feast when you do break your fast is as important as the fast itself. For myself personally, as shared in the first, I tend to lean more towards a keto carnivore feasting. I find that I bloat and I get really uncomfortable with carbs and especially vegetables. Um, Having had autoimmune diseases, specifically around my thyroid, my body craves animal proteins. So that's where I tend to lean in when I feast. Healthy bone broths, healthy fats like olives are really well for me, but may not be for someone else. Regardless of how you feast, having that planned in advance is the key to your success coming off of your fast. The basics. Have a plan that carries forward with this extended topic we're going to go into. Listening to your body and remaining flexible. Don't just set a date for the sake of setting a date. Be flexible if you're not feeling well. Our bodies, like everything else, are continuously evolving. If you are struggling and the struggle feels very real and very intense, you need to be flexible. It's better to remain healthy than to stress the body and to totally throw your fast away. So we covered this in, again, the first class, so I don't want to go into depth on this, but it's a very important thing to think through before you begin this journey. And then having a wellness plan to sustain this lifestyle. Again, very much covered in the first class. And then, of course, your baseline labs, getting those done before you go into any extended fast so that you have something to compare it to on the other end. Whether you have an integrative doctor or a naturopath or somebody that runs your labs, this is really important. You don't want to harm your body. You want to work with your physician, whatever that looks like for you. And I cannot stress this and the importance of this enough. So that's our recap. Let's dive into the content of this class. Widening your window. That's how I like to think of going into extended fasting. Not just, I want to pick X number of days and gun for it. I don't think that's going to make you successful at all. If you've only done an 18/6 or a 72-hour fast, which is what we covered in the first iteration, you really don't want to try and jump to a 7-day fast. Slowly start to extend your window. Reduce the eating window and extend the fasting window. Just do it a little bit at a time. See how your body adapts and adjusts. If you're not feeling any stressors to the body, continue to do it. It's incredible how quickly you will begin to adopt this lifestyle if you don't stress the body. You want to start slow and you want to build on that. What starts to happen when you reach that 36-hour fast, your ghrelin or your cravings go away, so that tummy gurgling stops. You're burning fat. We know this is happening. The body automatically starts to go to those reserves when it is not going into a place where it's having to use insulin because you're eating. You're starting to lose weight, whether it's around the visceral fats that we discussed around your organs, or you're starting to lose weight that you can see in your clothing. It will become noticeable. You're resetting your gut. One of the most important, profound things to do happens in that first 36 hours. Your gut starts to heal. The old cells start to die off. That autophagy kicks in and real momentum starts to happen. The anti-aging properties that come with fasting happen and begin to happen in the first 36 hours. These are incredible gifts. Don't look at a 36-hour fast as not good enough. It's your starting place, no doubt, but you can build on this. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to stress the body. You want to build on it. And you're going to feel such a sense of independence and power by realizing that you can do this slowly. You don't need to do anything that's going to stress. Now, if you jump from a 36 to 72 hours, widening that window again finds that you can regenerate your entire immune system. This is fascinating to me because you're really at a place where your blood labs are going to show that things are really starting to change in your body. This is why I recommend that baseline lab. And it is incredible how the cells know what to do when you're not feeding it other things that it's having to resist or break down. And when the insulin responses aren't being triggered by anything, after that 72 hours, things really start to make a significant change in the body. These cells studied under microscopes are incredibly fascinating to me. What I do say, however, is beyond that 72 hours, there's still so much that's unknown. You can read so many different doctors' opinions on this, and everyone has a different one. So I tell people, find what is sustainable and what works for your body. What works for me may not work for you. What Dr. Fung recommends, or Dr. Berg, or any of these other folks that are out there promoting extended fasting, you will see them all say the same thing. This is still very early adopted stages, getting past that 72 hours. There's lots of differing opinions. Some say it's not even worthwhile, that you're really just stressing the body. But I found with my own labs that I was not stressing the body and was having substantial success after that 72 hours. So that's just me. You got to find what works for you. In addition to this, fasting timelines differ. What's happening in the body? I find that each doctor has a very differing opinion about it. So again, keep your own journal while you're doing this, especially as you begin to extend your fasting window. Document what you're noticing is going on in your body. Document how you're feeling, what you were able to do to get through the ebbs and the flows, what you were able to do to trick your mind into getting through those difficult stages, and how you're feeling. So, for example, if this fasting timeline that I'm referencing in here shows that at the 4 to 6 hour mark, when you begin fasting, your blood sugar drops. At the 10 to 12 hour, your liver glycogen use starts to drop. At the 12 to 14 hour, your body rises in ketones. And those ketones are what causes your body to start to fat adapt, where it knows to go and eat the fat versus the muscle. At that 18 to 20 hour range, the fat oxidation increases in your body. 22 to 24 hours, the liver glycogen depletion starts to happen. 24 hours, the gluconeogenesis progresses. 24 to 36, the growth hormones spike. This is when things really start to shift. 36 to 48, the autophagy increases. This is where the old cells are dying off and the new cells are taking over. This is powerful stuff, you guys. That 48 to 72 hours, now you're in ketosis. it rises exponentially. The body is eating fat. Hooray. This is where most people say, I'm done. I say, you just made it through the 3 hardest days. If you can keep going, to me, this is where the magic happens. This is the extended part, past that 72 hours. So in day 3, the gluconeogenesis peaks, okay? Your ketones rise in multifold from days 3 to 5. Your blood sugar is its lowest. This is where you stop having cravings. Your body starts to just adapt to the fact that it's eating fat. You're not looking at food like everybody's head looks like a muffin or a piece of pizza, and you're starting to settle in, which is why I say, geez, if you can make it through that first 3 days, you're really on the home stretch. After day 5, they say your growth hormone flattens. This is good. You're leveling out. And day 7, you're in metabolic acidosis. So what does all this mean? These are all fancy words. Well, the reality is your growth hormones are repairing your skin and your internal organs. And you are in a state of healing at every level of your body. This isn't just physically. This is where I tell people I start to have fasting euphoria. I become very clear. I'm able to write, to do big projects, to deal with difficult situations. The way I explain it is like the filter in my mind becomes so widened. I see so much more opportunities in front of me versus problems. And so I become quite an arduous problem solver. And as a project manager, that is fabulous for me. I'm able to take teams and help them decipher things that may have felt really complex. Without the mind and the body breaking things down, and the insulin responses and the ghrelin responses going up and down, I feel really dedicated to the moment. So it's a mind, body, and soul connection, truly. It's not just a physical connection. It really does lend itself to all over wholeness healing. And I find this to be super important. We have someone joining. So the first 3 days may be challenging, but those are really the components where you want to empower your body to extend itself and recognize that that extension is affordable to you as long as you don't stress the body. So again, we covered all of that in the first class. I don't want to recap that. And for those who are joining late, we've already moved forward past 72 hours, but this is being recorded, so don't worry, you can catch up on the rewind. Where we're going now is beyond the 72 hours. So as your body becomes fat adapted, it's now in autophagy, meaning that the cells are repairing themselves, you're clearer, you're feeling better, you're able to receive life at a higher pace. You're able to regulate your emotions. Your circadian rhythm is settling so that you're sleeping better. You're just establishing a real wellness throughout your body is the way I describe it. You just feel holistically well overall. And if you went into it maybe coming down with a cold or a virus, you'll notice that the body is rapidly healing that. And you won't need anything other than the fast and staying hydrated. I find that if I'm even remotely on the edge of coming down with a cold or a virus or something is going around, if I dip right into a 72-hour or longer fast, I breeze right through it. My body just heals itself, and it is such a cool thing to know especially after having so many autoimmune diseases like I did. So, as I mentioned, there's a lot of unknown areas after 72 hours. So many doctors have differing opinions. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, and I'm not a nutritionist. I'm only sharing what I've learned, and you're going to have to learn your own body in your own way. But tread lightly and just be in the realization that going slow is better than trying to go fast. Just truly let your body guide you and lead the way. So, what's the goal of the expansion of the fasting window? In my mind, it should always be autophagy, meaning healing. Now, with that said, just know that fat and weight loss are natural benefactors of this. They come along for the ride. So, if that's something that's important to you, you're going to get that. I promise you. I lost 100 pounds. But you shouldn't really go into extended fasting with the mindset of, I want to lose weight. And I'll tell you why. It is a mind trap. It really is. And I do believe our bodies are very attuned to understanding that we're doing something with an expectation. And so I like to go into it with the only expectation being I'm healing, I'm getting better, I'm getting more conditioned, I'm becoming a better version of myself. The fat and the weight loss comes with it. It is just a benefactor, but all the other nooks and crannies and goodness that come with extended fasting are really the places to hone in on. Knowing what is happening with your cells is so important because I think it helps you to understand what we mean by autophagy. So there's 3 stages, or really 2 stages, that happen with your cell growth. And I think pointing to those is going to help a little bit. One is cell growth mode. This is basically when your cells are proliferating, meaning they're increasing in cell numbers and volume. And during this growth mode, our cells consume a great deal of energy. This in turn produces a lot of waste, which leads to cellular damage. And the result is premature aging. None of us want that. You don't want to be stressing your body so that you're constantly in cell growth mode. Your body is sending out signals which say, we've got to release more cells. We've got to keep pushing them out. Your white blood cell count needs to go out to fix this and fix that. And that's causing your body to age faster. Nobody wants that. When you're in cell maintenance mode, however, this is the clearing and repair of damaged cells within our bodies, and it can be called longevity mode. And that mode is more ample to somebody who's living a more regulated life, where they're not in fight or flight mode, they're not fighting autoimmune disease, they don't have tumors in the body, where the body's continuously trying to go into cell growth mode to combat those issues. It has been proven that staying continuously in growth mode after our reproductive prime is especially damaging. So that means after the age of 23 to 25 years old, if you stay in that cell growth mode, you are aging faster. You're stressing your body, and nobody wants that. So this is why I keep saying, trying to go from a 72-hour fast to a 7-day fast, it is not going to help you. It's going to put you in that cell growth mode. The autophagy won't kick in because it's trying to heal itself faster. You want to go slow and steady. I cannot preface this enough. Now let's discuss something that I geek out about, which is called FOXO, F-O-X-O. The word FOX means foxhead box, which are proteins or protein transcription factors. This is a protein that controls the rate of genetic information between DNA and messenger RNA molecules, meaning this is what talks to your cells. So when FOX proteins are produced in places in our body and they're involved in a wide variety of functions, they play a role of regulating the expression of genes involved in your metabolism. What does this mean? Well, your cell growth, your cell proliferation, which is the growth in numbers, your differentiation, which is the rate of change in the function based on the variables of your body, whether you have a health condition or you're just fasting to fast, etc. The autophagy, which we've already discussed, which is the destruction of damaged or redundant cell components, and the apoptosis, which is the death of cells during the growth or development of such cells. So what does all that mean? That's a lot of fancy jargon. It means the FOXO's job is to tell us, our cells, whether to grow or to maintain themselves. Okay, what does that mean? When you reach a stage where you're working more in this FOXO area of cell recovery, your body starts to understand that it's always in a healing state. It stops dipping back and forth. It says, this is how I heal myself. So what does this have to do with extended fasting? Well, pretty much everything. On the surface of our cells, we have receptor proteins, which are basically the eyes and the ears of the cells. And they're always receiving messages from substances in the bloodstream. And they're telling those cells what to do. Those receptors measure, among other things, the types and amounts of the nutrients that we eat, insulin, which is one of the things these receptors detect. And as we've already discussed, if you're eating, your insulin is going up and down, which puts you back in cell growth mode, which means your body is having to what? Produce more cells to once again fight that instead of fighting illness or deregulating fat cells. When insulin is detected, parts of the FOXO functions become inhibited. In contrast, under conditions of low insulin or no insulin, when we're fasting, the FOXO transcription factors are activated. It's like you're in cruise control now in your car. You've put the cruise control on 60 and you've said, that's the rate I want to go for the rest of this drive. Your body now is in the most fantastic place. It is breaking those cells down. It is creating new cells. It's ridding and shedding the body of the old things that no longer serve. It is continuously re-engaging itself. All your rhythms, your lymphatic systems, your adrenals, your skin. If you've lost weight and you have skin, loose skin like I'm working on, it starts to use, this is fascinating to me, it starts to break those proteins down. It starts to reabsorb that skin because the collagen moves back into the skin and becomes healthier. The body starts to eat away at the things it knows it no longer needs. It's fascinating. If you have skin tags, tumors, ulcers, growths within the body, they've shown substantial scientific fact evidence that this FOXO state, where you're fasting, will go and start to eat and regrow those areas of the body. So we want more of this FOXO because it activates that DNA repair gene. It activates the antioxidant genes. It creates more autophagy, which is that healing pattern in the body. It inhibits cell proliferation, which is increased in tumors. And they've proven that this is one of the only ways of doing it is via fasting. Another way of doing it is exercise. And then the third, which I find fascinating, is exposure to either extreme hot or cold temperatures to increase the phosphoproteins. So, what have we covered in the first introduction? Fasting with red light therapy, infrared light therapy, or infrared sauna. Both fabulous ways of really mentoring your fast and your extended fast by bringing all of these modalities to the surface, all which are also doing what? Promoting those phosphoproteins. It all works hand in hand. So if you're doing it all in conjunction, you're not only supporting your body, you're supporting the whole organism of the body. So it's healing, it's losing weight, it's breaking down fats, those visceral fats around your heart and all of your organs, reproducing all of your cells. If you have anything that's growing in your body that is not serving you, breaking those down and restoring those cells with healthy new cells. So this is basically signaling the pathways, influencing a host of cellular repair activities in your body, and making sure that it has everything it needs to heal itself without medication, without other outside factors. All of that being said, as we covered in the first class, if you are new to this, you don't want to just stop taking your medications. You want to work with your doctors on the labs. You want to slowly watch those labs get better, slowly wean off those medications. And if you're on statins and things like that for blood pressure and cholesterol, those are the things your labs are going to start to really show improving. And we're not talking about years here, you guys. I started this in 2017. Within the first couple of months, my labs were showing such tremendous improvement that we started to wean me off my thyroid meds, my heart medication, my cholesterol medication, and my blood pressure and my cholesterol were all stabilizing. But you, again, don't want to stress your body. You want to do this slow and steady. If you're noticing extreme hair loss or your sleep schedule is not steadying out, these are signs that you're stressing the body. And that's why we again say, slow, steady wins the race every time. So I'm going to pause and see if anyone has any questions. And I'm purposely not sharing slides because I'm going to follow up with them like I did with the first video with all the content of my speaking and the slides embedded, so it'll make more sense. But I'll pause here. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, if you do, just put your hand up in the Zoom and I'll pause and I'll answer your questions there, or you can type them in the chat. We don't have much more to cover here. I really want to just talk to you about how this is your own unique journey. And in the land of unknowns of extended fasting, it's really important that you understand everything that you're doing with your body and you get all of these things in place and in plan before you jump into this endeavor. I just cannot emphasize enough the planning part is so important, and building up and extending your windows and moving slowly is important, and navigating this slowly, recognizing it's not a race, but also having your support and wellness routines established so that when you're having those rougher days, you can look at your calendar and say, okay, I'm not feeling the greatest today, but I know I'm going to go sit in the sauna and that always makes me feel better. Or I'm going to go and get some infrared light therapy today or have a therapeutic massage to work my lymphatic systems and drain those. And I'm going to come home and give myself an Epsom salt bath tonight and detox all the toxins that are coming to the surface. We cover a lot of these wellness options in the first class, but I cannot emphasize, even being in this as long as I have been, I still lean on these things, you guys, and they are what gets me through the tough days. Knowing that I can look at the calendar and I have that therapeutic massage, or I've got that Epsom salt bath to look forward to, or maybe I'm going to sit in a cold tub, or I'm really excited to, dry brush that morning and really open myself up to some serotonin and oxytocin release, good feel juju stuff after a rough night of maybe not sleeping great. Maybe I wasn't good with my electrolytes the day before. So it's always checking in and making sure that you're journaling along the journey. There's lots of tools to do this. I personally did not enjoy using the apps, but there's tons of them. I think there's one called Zero that you can download, but there's several, especially if you get into doing feasting in more of a keto-based lifestyle where you want to also track your macros and that sort of thing. I'm a little more old-fashioned. I'd like to write it in my journal. I like to look at it. I like to have it on a piece of paper, and I'm really good about documenting when I started my fast, when I plan to feast, what my why is. I like to doodle in my journal. If I'm having a rough moment, I'll go get a cup of black coffee and sit outside and I'll doodle to get my mind off of that moment. And I love looking back at my journals and being able to say, this is where I've gotten to. If you're not in our support group on Facebook, I recommend you join that, and I'll make sure the link is in the follow-up to this video. I actually have an online album in there that I've kept for the last 3 years. I've even shared some of my own personal photos of my journey. And again, when I have rough days, it really helps to go back and see where I was a year ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. It really helps to be able to look back at that and say, oh my gosh, look at how far you've come. Look at how you used to have loose skin on your neck and that's all gone. These little small things that feel small aren't so small when you start to look at them over a wide span. So again, I encourage you to journal, to document, and to keep track of where you are in this process. It's going to help so much as you move deeper and deeper into your fast. So with that, that's all I have for tonight. And it really does cover why extending the fast slowly makes sense, and how I really feel like if you can get through that first 72 hours, it really does get easier from there, which is why I giggle when people say, I made it 72 hours. I didn't get any further. And I'm like, oh, you were right there, right there. Just keep going. And if I can ever be of encouragement to you, I'm always happy to do that. It's something that I'm passionate about, which is why I've offered these classes for free. I just want other people to have this level of wellness, to be able to walk in and fire all your doctors, get off all your medications, and say, I am living in remission just from a fasting protocol, has been the biggest gift to me. And I'm just happy to share what I've learned going forward with others who maybe want the same approach to life. So again, I'll pause and open if anyone has any follow-up questions. And again, this will be recorded and shared for those who missed the beginning, and all the slides will be included in that sharing. Any questions? Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.